Obviously, I'm a Yankees fan, so I'd love to see him.
It's almost like legacy of like the NFL versus.
But I definitely think that Baker could be a really good player for the Panthers moving forward.
Did I say Oreos?
There's a lot of questions I have about Mahomes. Looks like a kid playing Madden.
Turning point in the game is the 13-second drive.
They play very hard, even though they're terrible.
He's a good pick. For sure. He's going to be a good player. But I can't argue against the Jamar Chase pick.
They made moves saying we're going to win this year, at least get into the playoffs.
I'm going with my guy, Corey Seager. So glad.
What's good, y'all? My name is Austin Drummond, and I play rugby for the University of Notre Dame. And you're listening to The Outsider's Opinion with Austin and Kevin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our NBA Opinions of the Week. I am Kevin, and I am joined by the man that's not really feeling the pressure, which is sad, but final week of the regular season, you're probably more happy it's over for your team, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's been a rough year for the Wizards, and they're definitely under no pressure these last couple of games. We've been holding out a lot of players, but there are a lot of teams that come playoff time are under the most pressure or under a lot of pressure this year. But what's the first team that you want to bring up that's in contention?
Yeah, in contention, I'll save the team that I think's under the most pressure. I think the Mavs. I wouldn't be shocked. I feel that there's some pressure there, given just the limit. Like, is Kyrie going to stay happy? I think Kyrie's a huge player. He's a huge contributor. They really have a 2-year window, in my opinion. So I think you just have to take advantage of the way Luka's playing and the way Kyrie is playing, because even though everything seems great with Kyrie right now, that could change. We've seen that happen.
Yeah, 100%. The first team I want to bring up that's under true contention is a team that the Mavs will almost certainly be playing in the first round. It's the Clippers. We said this for a couple teams in other sports, but if it's not this year for the Clippers, when is it? They have Harden, who's playing well this year. Russ just came back from injury. Norman Powell's a great six-man. You have Zubac, you have Miles Plumlee, but then obviously you have PG-13 and Kawhi, and you have to wonder, if it's not this year, when is it? So I think they're under an immense amount of pressure this upcoming playoff window, because it's all on the line.
Yeah, they're a team where I feel like they've missed that window. I want to say the first year when.
But when you trade for Harden,
that's true. I feel like they're out of it, but then they keep coming back somehow, and they're like, "This team's great." And can they get out of it? Because I forget about Harden. You got Russell Westbrook. Is Zubac back, or is Zubac?
Yeah, he's healthy.
Okay, he's healthy. Oh, Trey Mann. No, not Trey Mann. That's an okay.
Terrence Mann.
Terrence Mann. All right, yeah. Terrence Mann. Yeah, Paul George. I'm like, there's so many. It's crazy because I'm like, they missed it, but they still have a chance to rectify it, because as long as Kawhi and PG stay together, but you do have Harden too. And talking about Kyrie, that can happen with Harden too. He wanted out several times from different places. But when I think about that first team, that loaded roster back then, Montrezl Harrell was still playing well. You had PG, Kawhi. You had Patrick Beverly. You had Lou Williams. That was just such a good team. And they couldn't even make it to the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, and then they did when Kawhi was hurt.
Yeah, and Kawhi has gotten hurt, which has harmed him. But yeah, it is that's a team that that to me feels pressure. I'll go with my second. I'm going to go over to the East. I feel like the Celtics have pressure because they made all these moves. Like, you add KP, you get Drew Holiday. This is a stacked roster. And how, kind of talking about the Clippers, the Celtics are the number one team. They missed out on the finals last year. kind of did a lot of changes. They were in the finals the year before. If this roster doesn't win a championship, to your point, Austin, like we've talked about off camera about other teams, when is the chance that they get back there?
Yeah, that's a great point. The team
Like,
I like to
KP's
mention,
healthy.
another team, say again.
Like KP's healthy right now. He's playing.
Yeah,
well.
yeah. You never know when a player can become injury prone. You never know when a player's going to want to leave. You never know how that's all going to work out, especially with how many players they have that are playing at such a high level. But another team I want to mention is a team that made immense moves this offseason. A team that made it to the finals recently, ended up losing it, and then made big trades. It's the Phoenix Suns. The Suns are probably the second most team under pressure, even though they're not that great this year regarding standings. It doesn't really matter when you're considering the fact that they made these moves. They're the 6th seed right now. And you would anticipate that a team that trades for Bradley Beal, that is obviously traded for KD last year, is a championship contender. And for them not to be, well, I still think they are, because every team in the West is going to make the playoffs, will have some semblance of a chance. But it really is crazy to see how many teams make moves like the Suns have made moves and don't end up winning in the NBA. So the Suns are under an immense amount of pressure, especially Devin Booker, because, I mean, you make these moves, you say you're going to be so good, and they're right now the 6th seed.
I'm so glad you mentioned the Suns because I left them off my list because I wanted to bring up the Mavs. I also wanted to bring up the Celtics. And I was like, man, I hope Austin brings it up. And he did. They are under an immense amount of pressure because last year was a great chance, or they should have had it, even though they did not play well. You make all these big trades. You are in deep trouble with the cap and your future if you do not go far. And I think when you have one of the better players in the NBA, you're always in contention. That's why I brought up the Mavs and the pressure to win, because Luka is the top player in the NBA. Kyrie is also back to what we saw, and he's not having those off the court issues. But when you have KD, it's just not. You got to get back there with KD because we've seen KD on the stage. However, he was on a stacked roster with the Warriors when he won multiple championships. And it's like they're a team that fired Monty Williams. They brought in Frank Vogel, who has won a championship in the past. So it's a tough road for them because they are the 6th seed. They're going to have to face. I think this puts them on track to face
OKC.
And then if they somehow get past that, they would have to go through Denver. And Denver just, it puts them on a tough road because no matter what, you got to win against tough teams. But this is really taking the harder road when if they had played better, you're facing a lesser team, in my opinion, the Timberwolves. But yeah, Thunder are good, but Denver, you somehow got to get through Denver if you want to get to the championship. And with Bradley Beal too, that even makes the salary cap worse for them because given the new rules, the luxury tax, and that hurts the depth of the team.
Yeah. Who's your team that you think has the most pressure for them this season?
I feel we might have the same team. To me, it's the Bucks. Given what they did in the offseason, in the offseason, they fired Budenholzer, who I still think he's a great coach. Even though I wasn't a huge fan of him, you can see I was not a huge fan of him with the Suns. But blaming him for the loss while he was going through a lot of stuff just hurts. And I don't understand it because I blame the roster construction on that. Giannis also got hurt, so I feel he shouldn't have been fired. Then they bring in Adrian Griffin. Okay. He's fired. They also bring in Dame. They get rid of Drew Holiday, which is I am a huge fan of Drew Holiday. I think he's an essential piece, and that to me is what makes the Celtics so good. I don't know how they got him, but it's amazing. They bring in Dame, who we've talked before is having a rough year. And then you fire Adrian Griffin. You bring in Doc Rivers. This team has to win because they've brought this on themselves. You also do have Giannis, so he's the top player in the NBA. Fits my idea of he's in contention. But when you're pairing two great superstars together, and you are going through coaches like an order, or like, I don't like this sandwich, give me another one.
That's funny.
Yeah, like I that makes sense. They had their usual order, which is Mike Budenholzer. Got rid of him. Quickly get rid of Adrian Griffin. And it was, you and I go back and forth texting. I'll go, man, we should talk about how this is terrible. Then, they're doing hot. And they're like, wait. And now they're at 15-15. They're on a 4-game losing streak.
And they could eventually lose the 2 seed to the Magic. They have 2 games against the Magic. The Magic are only 1 game behind them. So if the Magic were to win both games against the Bucks, they control their own destiny. The Bucks were close on my list. I actually don't have them as the team under the most pressure. Mine is the Celtics. Kevin, do you want to know the 2 other teams that are comparable net rating wise all time to this Boston Celtics team?
Okay, net rating. Ooh, I want to go Warriors. Maybe 17-18.
So 16-17 Warriors.
Okay.
And the 95-96 Bulls.
Wow.
Those are the 2 teams that net rating wise. So the KD Warriors and the second half
that's what
3-peat Bulls are comparative to this team net rating. No one's even close in regards to record. No one is going to even get close to them remotely. So they have full control of the home court advantage for the rest of the playoffs already. That's already locked up. It's been locked up for a while. And you add Drew Holiday and KP this year. They're both been like, Drew Holiday's missed some games, KP's missed a little bit of games, but they're relatively healthy. Al Horford, multiple 5-time All-Star, I believe. So you have so many All-Stars in your starting lineup. And then you have Derek White, who's playing extremely well. You have guys like Peyton Pritchard, who, when you need buckets, can get you buckets. They're so deep. And I think what even intensifies it more is Ime Udoka leaving, obviously. And you brought up how Doc Rivers is now with the Bucks. Well, Joe Mazzulla now with the Celtics. Ime Udoka led the Celtics to the finals, and they ended up losing. But now Ime Udoka's with the Rockets, and they're starting to play good. They're starting to play well. They may sneak into the play-in. They may not. We'll see. I don't think they eventually will, but they're playing well, and there's just so much on the line for the Celtics because Tatum has the most turnovers in a playoff run ever. I know you've probably seen that stat, right?
No, I did not, but I'm not surprised.
In one playoff run, no one has ever had more turnovers. So one season's playoffs, he has the most turnovers in that said run ever. So the 2022 playoffs, he had the most turnovers that anyone's ever had in a playoff season. So there's a lot of pressure there. And he also shot horribly in the finals, while Al Horford and other players were trying to pick up the slack. But you also trade Marcus Smart, a franchise cornerstone, and you pick up Drew Holiday. So there's a lot of pressure here, and especially with them easily being the best team on paper, the best team since the 2017 Warriors, there's a lot of pressure on them.
Yeah. Man, that's a great stat to bring up. Okay. Okay, so we did disagree on the number one, but yeah, I brought up Celtics. You did not bring up the Bucks, but
they're close. They're close. The only thing that saves them is they have a title 3 years ago.
That's true.
You can't be under too much pressure if you won a title. Like the Celtics have not won a title since 2007. No, 2008. 2007 was 2008. So
Doc Rivers' last championship.
Correct. That is Doc Rivers' last championship. It's just remarkable. It's a stat that since the Berlin Wall has fallen, the Celtics have won championship.
Wow.
They have 17 titles, tied for the most all time with the Lakers. But since the Berlin Wall has fallen, they have won. Obviously, that happened in 1987. Their last title was 1986. Their last title was 2008, but their last title before 2008 was 1986.
Yeah, and that's the Larry Bird era.
Yeah, back when he was a 3-time or 3-peat MVP. Now you get Tatum. Now you have one of the best teams again on paper ever. You have to get it done.
Yeah, I like how you connected Joe Mazzulla to this, given what he's done and what he's failed to do at some points. Like you have that Heat series last year where they struggled. This is a big year for Missoula, even though like I do think he's a good coach, but also a big year for Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Tatum has been floated in this like MVP talk, but when you have this stacked of a roster, Tatum has failed, but the team still wins. So it's gonna have to be a big year, and he's gonna have to show up into those playoff moments or someone else. Because they do have other moments. It would hurt Tatum's legacy, but also uplift someone. Because, dude, I don't know how they made it work. But Drew Holiday being on this team is insane. Like he's just a Swiss Army knife defensively. He also played well when the Bucks won. I think he hit some key threes.
Yeah, he had some big games. And another team I wanted to mention as a honorable mention is the Heat. The Heat is a 7 seed. I don't care. I'm not going to give the Heat to pass every year because I know that Jimmy Butler's going to show up in the playoffs. I know how they're going to play come this time of year. So they do have pressure. Before the year started, before the season started, around the start of the season, we did our NBA championship or bust, or NBA finals or bust. And in that video, we discussed how the Heat were on our finals or bust. And that still does not change for me because they know they can make it this far no matter what seed they are. They were a 5 seed one year. They were an 8 seed last year. I know they can make it. They know they can make it. And that's because they get a new version. They get Michael Jordan, the watered down version of it, come playoff time. So I'm not going to give them a pass just because of how this team is a 7 seed and how they deal with some injuries and all that other stuff. No, they still have a lot of pressure, at least in my sense, because they made it to 2 finals, 2023 and obviously 2020, and they haven't won one. And like I said in that video, if they don't win one with Jimmy Butler as a Heat, that would look terrible on the resume of the Heat, on their track record, because it's rare that you make multiple finals with one player and don't end up winning one. And when that doesn't happen, you do feel a little bit sad about how the tenure ended up.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. You did bring up the Suns. That would be my honorable mention. But a team that also feels some pressure, I think, could be the Cavs, given the free agent uncertainty with Donovan Mitchell. And they were.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
That's some teams like I feel the Mavs. They're not under an immense amount of pressure, but it's getting there. And if you can go far. Yeah.
Because the Mavs missed it last year, I don't think it's the level of the other teams I mentioned. There is some pressure. There's going to be pressures with the Timberwolves if they get the 1 seed. There's going to be pressures with the Thunder, even though it's their second year in the playoffs. Or I guess that last year they were in the play-in and did not end up making playoffs. But every team that makes the playoffs is going to have some level of pressure with it. But I just feel like the ones that I said at the top are, it's really, you can feel the dog breathing on their neck because it's right behind you if you don't get it done.
Yeah, and we're going to, media is going to come after him. We're going to talk about it, especially with the Celtics. I've really come after the Bucks, given just the coaching changes. And to me, if you're putting a lot of pressure on your coaching changes, to me, that puts pressure on, hey, we want to win the championship. And if they don't, there's going to have to be questions. But yeah, Celtics are good. I go Bucks. But yeah, Suns also and Clippers, given the past. Those are some major teams and then some minor teams as well. But that's all I got, and I'll toss this over to you to close out.
Yeah, thank you guys for listening. Please catch us in our next video. Which team do you think has the most pressure this year?